All right, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Law and Finance Committee meeting for February 12th. Attendance has been taken. And so I will move forward with the first item on our agenda, which is approval of the minutes from the January 15th, 2025 meeting.
So moved.
Motion and Supervisor Grasso, second Supervisor Tolson. Any discussion? All right, hearing none, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, carried. All right, first up is Health and Human Services.
Thank you, Chairman. Good afternoon, everybody. First item, amending Resolution 249 of 2024 to authorize amended agreements with certain mental health providers and amending the 2025 county budget in relation thereto. Budget impact, the budget will be amended to accept these funds and authorize the related expenses. The New York State Office of Addiction Services and Supports has awarded RISE Housing and Support Services an $817,005 grant to implement a rehabilitation level of care program in a 20-bed residential setting. This includes $217,005 one-time startup funding and $600,000 per year state aid. Next item, authorizing agreements with various youth team sports providers. Budget impact, no budget impact funds are included in the department budget. These allocations totaling $95,505 will assist with positive youth development and delinquency prevention efforts within the county's youth sports and education programs. Next item, authorizing agreements for expanded in-home services for the elderly program. Budget impact, no budget impact funds are included in the department budget. These renewal agreements include 3 different home care agencies to provide level 1 and level 2 personal care through the state-funded expanded in-home services for the elderly grant program. Next item, accepting an American Rescue Plan Act Adult Protective Services and Elder Justice Act Adult Protective Services grant allocation from the New York State Office of Children and Family Services and amending the 2025 county budget in relation thereto. Budget impact, the budget will be amended to accept these funds, authorize the related expenses, and increase fund balance by $9,831. These grant funds totaling $20,494 will improve and expand the ability of the county's Adult Protective Services Unit to investigate allegations of abuse, neglect, and exploitation and provide associated services to clients.
All right, thank you. Ask for a motion for the Health and Human Services agenda.
I'll make that motion, Chairman.
Supervisor Lant, second Supervisor Grasso. Any discussion?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, if I could just speak to the agreements for youth team sports providers.
Yes.
I serve as the chair of the Health and Human Services Committee this year. And the committee is fully supportive of those agreements as presented for this year. One thing that I wanted to mention is the committee did discuss drilling deeper into that program and making sure that we are, capitalizing on all the funds that are available to Saratoga County. So what we are doing as a committee is we're going to form a subcommittee with myself and Supervisor Arnold from Galway and Supervisor Murray from Saratoga, and meet with the staff that work on those programs and get a better understanding. And not that we're anticipating any changes, but we'll, like I said, try to get do a deeper dive, making sure that we're maximizing the benefit of that program. That's all.
All right, thank you. Any further discussion? All right, hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, carried. Thank you. Next up is airport improvement.
Okay, 2 items. First, accepting a federal 2024 airport improvement program grant from the New York State Department of Transportation. Budget impact, no budget impact funds are included in the department budget. This grant in the amount of $48,945 will cover a portion of the rehabilitation of the western apron of the airport. Next item, accepting a federal 2024 airport improvement program grant from the New York State Department of Transportation. Budget impact, no budget impact funds are included in the department budget. This grant, in the amount of $25,000, will cover a portion of the rehabilitation of the western apron of the airport.
All right, thank you. Could I have a motion for the Airport Improvement Committee?
Second.
Supervisor Ostrander, second Supervisor Veach. Any discussion? All right, hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, carried. Thanks. Next up is Buildings and Grounds.
Okay, Building and Grounds, authorizing an agreement with Healthy Solutions Property Services LLC for cleaning services at the county's mental health facility and sheriff substations and amending the 2025 county budget in relation thereto. Budget impact, the budget will be amended to authorize the related expenses and decrease fund balance by $34,605. An RFP was issued and Healthy Solutions Property Services LLC was selected to provide cleaning services at the county's mental health facility and sheriff substations. In addition, 3 one-year renewal options have been provided for the future.
All right, thank you. I'll ask for a motion for the Buildings and Grounds agenda.
So moved.
Supervisor Veach, is there a second? Second, Supervisor Tolleson. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, carried. Next up is Human Resources and Insurance.
Okay, as recommended by the HR and Insurance Policy Review Subcommittee, the next 2 items will authorize necessary updates to the Policy and Procedure Manual. First, amending the Policy and Procedure Manual to revise the county's jury duty policy. Budget impact, no budget impact. As recommended by the Policy Review Subcommittee, this resolution will authorize necessary updates to the county's jury duty policy to align with current practices and applicable laws. Next, amending the Policy and Procedure Manual to revise the county's workers' compensation policy. Budget impact, no budget impact. As recommended by the Policy Review Subcommittee, this resolution will authorize necessary updates to the county's workers' compensation policy to align with current practices and applicable laws. Next item, authorizing workers' compensation plan coverage for all members of the county's volunteer fire investigation unit. Budget impact, no budget impact. Funds are included in the department budget. This coverage will be extended to the county's volunteer fire investigation unit members.
All right, I'll ask for a motion for the HR.
I make that motion, Chairman.
Supervisor Lant, second. Supervisor Butler, any discussion? All right, hearing none, all in favor, say aye. Any opposed? All right, carried. Next up is Public Safety.
Okay, first item, accepting an ignition interlock device monitoring program grant from the New York State Division of Criminal Justice Services. Budget impact, no budget impact. Funds are included in the department budget. This grant, in the amount of $23,391, will cover expenses related to the enforcement of the program administered by the Probation Department. Next item, accepting a 4th Counsel at First Appearance grant from the New York State Office of Indigent Legal Services. Budget impact, no budget impact. Funds are included in the department budget. These grant funds, in the amount of $346,290.06, will be used for stipends and mileage expenses to on-call attorneys covering off-hours arrangements. Next item, accepting a 2024 statewide interoperable communications grant from the New York State Division of Homeland Security and Emergency Services and amending the 2025 county budget in relation thereto. Budget impact. The budget will be amended to accept these funds and authorize the related expenses. This grant award, in the amount of $766,246, will be used to offset equipment and maintenance costs for the department's communications equipment.
Sorry about that. Looking for a motion for the Public Safety agenda.
So moved.
Moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Supervisor Veach, any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, carried. Next up is Economic Development.
Okay, first item, authorizing the transfer of funds from the Economic Development Grant Reserve and amending the 2025 county budget in relation thereto. Budget impact, the budget will be amended to increase expenses and reduce the Economic Development Grant Reserve Fund by $22,638.46. This item will allow for the payment of the 2024 economic development grants for the towns of Day, Greenfield, and Hadley. Next item, authorizing a memorandum of understanding with Warren County for a child care startup program and amending the 2025 county budget in relation thereto. Budget impact, the budget will be amended to accept these funds and authorize the related expenses. Warren County has recently received a grant award from the U.S. Department of Labor. The purpose of these grant funds will be to promote child care expansion in places that are deemed child care deserts. Saratoga County would like to collaborate on this initiative and act as a sub-recipient. Saratoga County will provide financial and business-related training to residents interested in becoming child care business owners, along with providing marketing and supportive services for which the county will be reimbursed for up to $13,850 for these child care expansion efforts.
All right, thank you. Looking for a motion for the economic development agenda.
I'll make that.
Supervisor Butler, is there a second? Supervisor Ostrander, is there any discussion? All right, hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, carried. Thank you. Next up, trails and open space.
Okay, first item, authorizing the transfer of funds from the open space reserve and amending the 2025 county budget in relation thereto. Budget impact, the budget will be amended to increase expenses and reduce the open space reserve fund by $50,000. This item will allow for the payment of the 2022 Town of Milton Open Space Grant. Next item, setting a public hearing on proposed amendments to the boundaries of the Saratoga County Consolidated Agricultural District Number 2. Budget impact, no budget impact. This resolution will set a public hearing for March 12th, 2025 to consider this year's inclusions into the Agricultural District Number 2. Next item, authorizing an agreement with Mechanicville City School District for the conveyance of a permanent easement and right-of-way access. Budget impact, no budget impact. This easement will allow the Mechanicville School District vehicular access and drainage maintenance access across the Elizabeth Street parking lot on the Zim Smith Trail.
All right, thank you. Is there a motion for the trails and open space agenda?
So moved.
Supervisor Grasso, is there a second?
Second.
Second, Supervisor Veach, any discussion? All right, hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, carried. Next up is law and finance.
Okay, the next two items were approved at the most recent sewer commission meeting held on January 30th, 2025. First, amending an agreement with Wright Pierce Engineering Consultants, PC, for additional construction services for the Saratoga County Sewer District's Number 1 wastewater treatment plant. Budget impact, no budget impact. Funds are included in the department budget. This amendment is for additional construction administration services and design work totaling $70,000. Next item, authorizing an agreement with Flack Industries, Inc. for new water valves at the Saratoga County Sewer District Number 1 wastewater treatment plant. Budget impact, no budget impact. Funds are included in the department budget. The sewer district issued an RFP and Flack Industries was the low bidder. This agreement in the amount of $117,960 will replace approximately 15 valves at the wastewater plant. Next item, authorizing the acceptance and disbursement of New York State Septic System Replacement Program Grant Fund and amending the 2025 county budget in relation thereto. Budget impact, the budget will be amended to accept these funds and authorize the related expenses. A resident from the town of Clifton Park has completed their septic system replacement project, which is reimbursable through the state program. The total amount of this reimbursement will be $4,375. Next item, requesting the New York State Legislature to introduce legislation to amend Saratoga County's occupancy tax law to remove the 4-unit occupancy tax exemption and by establishing a 3% occupancy tax cap. Budget impact, no budget impact. This resolution will begin the process to request the state legislature for a home rule change to the county's current occupancy tax law. The driving force behind this is the recently enacted state short-term rental law taking effect later this year. The key changes we are requesting will both allow the county to actively participate with the new law and also return more home rule control back to the county regarding occupancy tax provisions. The primary changes include the following. First, eliminate the 4-unit minimum requirement to collect occupancy tax revenue. Based on opinions from NISAC and our county attorney, without this change, the county cannot collect this revenue from any short-term rentals anywhere in the county. Number 2, increase the allowable county occupancy tax rate from 1% to a cap of 3%. This will provide the needed revenue to implement the new state law, which is falling on counties and local municipalities to do so. Saratoga County's occupancy tax rate of 1% was established nearly 40 years ago and is currently the lowest out of 59 counties across the state, with the statewide average being 4.5%. An important consideration to remember is that the overwhelming majority of occupancy tax revenue is paid by non-county residents who are visitors here. Number 3, eliminating the requirement to provide half of our occupancy tax revenue to the now defunct Prosperity Partnership. Number 4, providing the Board of Supervisors more control through local law instead of state law for oversight and funding requirements based on current trends and opportunities. Assuming this resolution is approved by the board, we will be requesting our Saratoga County Senate and Assembly delegation to introduce new legislation in their respective chambers to move this forward during the current legislative session. Next item, reappropriating unspent funds for various departments and funds and amending the 2025 county budget in relation thereto. Budget impact, reappropriation from previous budget year. The total amount of this budget reappropriation will be $41,961,165.13. This is an annual housekeeping item where departments have submitted reappropriation requests to the administration, which were reviewed and verified to be presented in this single comprehensive resolution. These reappropriations cover ongoing contracts and grants.
All right, thank you. Is there a motion for the Law and Finance agenda?
So moved.
Supervisor Grasso, is there a second?
Second.
Second, Supervisor Butler, is there any discussion?
Yeah,
Supervisor
Mr.
Grasso.
Chairman, just regarding the occupancy tax law request, which I'm in favor of, what does it mean when we say a cap on 3% or 3% cap as opposed to a flat rate, flat percentage?
We believe it is a more favorable language to use to set a cap that we will not go over. The intention through discussions that we've been having is to go to 3%, but we want to reiterate that that is the cap that we will not go above.
Okay, so then it would come back to us to actually set the percentage?
Correct.
Okay. All right, and I know that the average is, significantly higher at 4.5, and I think our neighboring counties are higher, like 5%, right? Does it make sense to set the cap at 3% if we're gonna go and do this? Is it? Are we going in too low, I would say? Or is 3% the right number? That was just a question to throw out there. I assume it's not easy to get the state legislature to approve these, and just want to make sure if we do it once, and we're giving ourselves the control to set it lower, maybe it's better to ask for something like 4%. Just throwing it out there.
Yeah, it's an interesting point. I would agree with your statement that going above 3% might make it more challenging. The main reason being the city of Saratoga Springs has an additional 5% occupancy tax right now. And they have submitted a resolution to the state to increase that by 1% to go to 6%. So in the county outside of Saratoga Springs, the rate would be 3%. But if both of these resolutions are approved, the cities and the counties, in Saratoga Springs, the rate would be 9%. And I do not believe the legislature would be inclined to support that.
Okay, fair enough.
Question for the chair.
Yes, Supervisor Veach.
Where does the cap leave us 10 years down the road? 20 years down the road? Are we putting ourselves in a position that we can't undo this? And if not, why are we even putting a cap?
I can probably answer that. So I think it's a language thing as opposed to a functional thing, because at the end of the day, you could always go back to the state legislature and modify, right? You could ask for more or less depending on what you wanted to do. It's rarely ever less. But at the end of the day, you would just go back for another home rule for any adjustments that you would make to it. I just think, as Administrator Bulger had mentioned, that it's a more of a language thing, that it sets a cap of 3% as opposed to just saying 3%. But it's really the same thing, I think, in practical terms.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? All right, hearing no further discussion on law and finance agenda, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, carried. Chairman's item.
Okay, one chairman's item. Appointing a member to the Saratoga County Traffic Safety Board. Budget impact, no budget impact. Captain James Cleary from the New York State Police has retired. Christopher Stockton, also from the State Police, will replace him for a term ending 12/31/26.
All right, so I'll ask for a motion to approve the chairman's item.
So moved.
Second.
Supervisor Grasso, Supervisor Veach, any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, carried. Great. All right, so we have one other item to talk about today, and it's a discussion on bar closing times. We have just recently received this week, and it was attached to the agenda, a resolution from the City Council requesting that Saratoga County undertake, again, a discussion regarding bar closing times for Saratoga County. I've been involved in the discussions on this at the city level ever since these kind of discussions started back in 2012. So it's been a good 13 years that the city has been debating bar closing times, and the county has been also discussing it from time to time over that period. So what we have done here at Saratoga County is that we've had this item on our legislative program, I think, for the past 3 years, where we have been requesting that the state legislature look at bar closing times from a individual municipality standpoint, and urging them to change the state liquor authority law to allow individual municipalities the ability to set bar closing times within their borders. That would have, if they had gone forward with that, that would have given the city of Saratoga Springs the ability to have a different bar closing time than any other community within the county, and each town would have their ability to set the time on their own. The state obviously has not received requests from any other counties to do such a thing, and has essentially bypassed our request that's been in our legislative program. And again, I understand that the reasoning for that, because again, it's not something that a lot of counties are clamoring for. It just seems to be an issue unique to us. So over the years, we've received 4 resolutions from the city council, this one being the 4th, asking us in various types of language of how we should be changing bar closing times countywide. The process for this, of course, is that the State Liquor Authority will amend bar closing times upon receipt of a resolution from a county board of supervisors to change the last call from 4 a.m., which is the state law, to any other time that the county would request. So the city's resolution this time didn't set any specific time that they wanted to request, and I think I appreciate that. It gives us the ability here to kind of have a discussion about that. I'm going to give this committee my ideas about what I think we should do, based on discussions that I've had with both the city public safety department, as well as through the Chamber of Commerce, the bar owners in Saratoga Springs, on what would be acceptable to them as something. Because I think what we want to do here is balance both the public safety needs with closing a little bit earlier, which reduces some overtime issues, also helps expenses for injuries to officers that may occur late at night, as well as some other issues as well. Commissioner Cole is certainly supportive of this, as is, I believe, the Saratoga Springs PBA. And we've had he's had the discussion, and I think we've internally had some discussions with Sheriff Zerlo. He also favors an earlier bar closing time. And so if we go forward with this, it would be a countywide bar closing time, and we would set those dates and times for how we would do this. So before I open it up to discussion, here's the proposal that I have for us to do as a resolution, if we can get support here today for our board meeting next week. And again, this is based on discussions from that I've been having among the city with some of the bar owners, as well as the public safety department. So the request would be that from May 1st to October 31st annually, we would close bars at 3 a.m. So we'd take 1 hour off the 4 a.m. bar closing time in the summer to allow for those bar owners who do stay open late to realize at least some of the benefits that they're getting from being late in the summertime. As well as our busy tour season here, we have a lot more customers that are here enjoying our city and our county, and I think it would be fair to them to stay open almost as late as 4 a.m., but not quite. From November 1st to April 30th, the request would be to stay open, would close at 2 a.m. Slower season, and this time of year, I mean, again, we're even getting anecdotal evidence from Saratoga that a lot of bars don't stay open late in the winter time. And so to be fair to our public safety folks, we would go from 2 a.m. and then one night a year, New Year's Eve, we would stay open until 4 a.m. And that would be our request that we would have for the state liquor authority on this. So again, I think it's a fair compromise between 4 a.m. bar closing times, which is what it is now, and some requests had been for 2 a.m. year round. I don't think that serves our summertime tour season that well. And so kind of splitting the difference and coming up with a compromise position is where I hope we can go here at Saratoga County. The process from here, if we pass a resolution, would be to turn it over to the county attorney to draft, and then he actually understands the process a little bit better as well. Oh yes, and one other thing that I've just been notified of is that the effective date of this resolution, if we to put it forward, would be January 1st, 2026. So this year we wouldn't be doing it immediately. We would let this year go through at the normal 4 a.m. bar closing time, but as of January 1, 2026, it would go to 2 a.m. because that would be a date that's between November 1st and April 20th or April 30th. So I guess at this point, I'll open it up to the committee for any discussion or any comments that you might have about this, and we'll go from there. Supervisor Lant.
Yes, I believe myself the bar should close at 1, but because I've never seen any good come out of drinking at 1, 2, 3, or 4 in the morning. We all know that. Because I used to be there, so I know.
So
But I
as did
think
I,
The
Supervisor.
county should support the city 100% myself.
Thank you, Supervisor. Any other discussion? Supervisor
Yeah,
Grasso.
Mr. Chairman, so I thought that it was noteworthy that the city resolution didn't even recommend anything, but I appreciate your diligence in working with them and trying to represent what the city may want to see out of this. I would hate to go through a process and then find out that the city commissioners, are not in favor of whatever we adopt. But I personally, I've always been in favor of considering this. I've always thought that it should be a countywide plan and not different than the city than any place else in the county. I appreciate the fact that the city of Saratoga Springs is mostly impacted by this. But I'm perfectly happy with what you've proposed for the times. I think it's totally appropriate and a good step in the right direction. So I'm good with it.
All right, thank you. I appreciate that. Any other discussion on this issue? Supervisor Butler.
I'm kind of still, personally, I think that it's a good idea. Because it's only kind of come back up here in the last couple of days, I would really like to just do a little bit of my own research. I'd like to talk to some people outside of the city of Saratoga, some other businesses that, how's it going to affect them? I don't, what John says and yeah, you too.
Joe.
Sorry, I froze up there for a second.
You're at that age, Eric.
I know, coming fast. I'm just not ready to move it myself. I would just like to, like I say, do a little research outside the city of Saratoga. I understand this is a huge issue in Saratoga, and I don't disagree with anything they got going, but at the same time, there's a lot of other communities and businesses out there that I just like to hear their opinion before I push this to that point. And, we got all year. Don't really
Yeah.
want to wait all year, but I don't know that I'm comfortable pushing it today.
Okay. Understood. Thank you. And again, this is a discussion item only. There's nothing on the table yet. So we could delay this to next month for a formal, law and finance item. So I appreciate that. Supervisor Veach.
I kind of feel the same way, this is the first time sitting in this seat, hearing this. I know it's been a long time coming from the city for many years. I guess I'd like to hear from any of the other businesses that are going to be affected by this. I'd like to just hear what they have to say. The times seem reasonable. I think you're just going to find that they're just going to get its concentrated amount into them in the time frame that they have to work with. That's been always the policy, it seemed to be. But I don't have a problem with it, but I do want to hear from some of the other businesses like the other towns and hear what, how it's going to affect them. Thank you.
Okay. Any other discussion? All right, so what we'll do is we will hold on this. This is just a discussion item for today, and then we can, I guess, get some input from our various stakeholders from other towns and see what they, if any, I mean, there may not be any. I haven't heard too much over the years from other towns, but there may be some areas where this might be a big issue. So at the end of the day, we'll hold off for a month and we'll take it up in March, if that makes sense to the committee.
If I may, Chairman. I guess the question is in the past, has there been a lot of opposition? Has there been much when the thought has come to the?
Yeah, so a good question. I would say that when this was first brought up as an issue back in 2012, there was very little, any supervisors were open to changing bar closing times, right? They felt that it was kind of a similar thing, a city issue, not necessarily a county issue. I think there was a little bit of education that needed to occur about the power that the county has in this process. And personally, as a supervisor, I mean, I did not feel, and I still, even while proposing this, feel that bar closing times it's maybe good to eliminate some of that overtime, and it'll help, I guess, in a small way. But incidents are still going to occur in the city or a town that are bar related at any time. I mean, some of our most challenging incidents in the city of Saratoga Springs have happened at midnight or 11:30, right? So it's not necessarily doesn't necessarily solve a problem in that way, like a law enforcement type problem. But I do understand that in today's world, and this was a big debate at the city council during our budget last year, that budgets are getting tight, and the police overtime was certainly an issue in the city. And one of their thoughts was bringing this to the county again to try to limit bar closing times would help with those expenses in the city, right? If your police force is heading home at 2 a.m. as opposed to 4 a.m. It's a couple of hours of overtime that can be saved every night, frankly. And so the city is looking at it in various terms that are a little more, I'll say deliberative, as opposed to trying to fix a law enforcement problem or a crime issue. And so I think that it makes it more appropriate at this time for us to have that debate. Certainly more deliberative, and we're not just reacting to something that happened as an incident. So, but again, I think I've struggled a little bit to try to find other bars in other towns that stay open that late. And if there are any, I think we would like to hear from them and see how it would affect their business. But in some cases, there's not a lot of them outside of the city of Saratoga Springs. So.
If I may, is there any benefit to, along with this law, creating some demand from these business owners to put more emphasis or training into the over-serving? I know we have some training for bartenders.
Mhm.
I think I don't know how often they go for training, or if they get retrained after the first time, or if they're actually being monitored in enforcing what they're supposed to be doing. I think that maybe should be part of it, that there's got to be a requirement that whoever's serving at the same time has to be.
Yeah. I mean, I think I know where you're kind of going with that. So, I mean, in the city, we've undertaken several different efforts to try to do just that. And they've been relatively successful, frankly. Back in the 2012 era, when this first started, we worked a lot on trying to get bar owners to communicate better with each other, right? Folks on Caroline Street or other areas, you're getting, pushed away from one bar. You just walked across the street to the other bar, and they didn't know that there was an issue at the first bar, right? And so we worked a lot on intercommunication between the bar owners downtown, and that seemed to work pretty well. That was kind of reestablished maybe 4 years ago after they had that one shooting that was like kind of out in the middle of Broadway. They really redoubled those efforts for communication, and with technology, they've been able to do a much better job of that even since then. And they have worked. The city has leveraged the State Liquor Authority's enforcement division a little bit better for certain specific locations that seemed to be more of a problem than others, I guess you could say. And so the State Liquor Authority has taken some action on some individual bars to try to limit what happens after 2 a.m. So we've done all of those various things, right? And I think they've worked pretty well. But really the last step to that would be bar closing times in general in the city, which again, I would say over the years has, not to get too political, but has shifted from a one party issue to kind of more of a bipartisan issue in the city as well. And so I've noticed over the years, just dealing with my constituents and folks in my town, that has changed as well. It seems to be more of a unified voice to try to get us to do something here at the county. So, why we're here.
Thank you.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, if I could just.
Yes, sir. Supervisor Grasso.
A couple of things, just in terms of Charlton, we only have one establishment that would be affected, and I don't think they're ever open past 11 o'clock. I think it's important that we look at the times that are proposed, because I think it's extremely reasonable, the times that are currently on the table. In terms of the process, though, so we make the request, assuming that it gets supported by the full board, to the State Liquor Authority, and then we would have a local law, so then we would be subject to a public hearing process anyways, or no?
I'd ask county attorney to answer that.
There is no requirement to have a public hearing on this matter. It's just a resolution that you would send to the State Liquor Authority, and they would adopt it, is my understanding. You can have a public hearing if you choose, but you're not required to have one.
Okay, so I would just recommend, if the option, if there's enough supervisors that feel like a public hearing is warranted, then that could be, something that we could consider. I don't feel it's needed, but for the others that may struggle with moving this forward, that's something that we could consider as well.
Okay, appreciate that. Any further discussion? All right, I'm seeing none, so we will move on. And I appreciate the discussion. Very good. Thank you very much for all the input. Gives us some good direction on where to go next, so thank you. All right, so last is other business. Is there any other business to come before the committee for today? All right, hearing none. Next is to set the agenda for the board meeting, which is scheduled. And as a reminder, it's on Thursday, February 20th, next week. So I'll ask for a motion to set the agenda.
So moved.
So moved. Is there a second? Second, Supervisor Veach, any discussion? All right, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, carried. And lastly, a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Supervisor Butler? Supervisor Ostrander? All in favor? Aye, we're adjourned. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Have a good day.